My man Czar make tracks like this.
What's going on, y'all? I've got recording, mix, and mastering engineer D. Lyles here with me. And we're going to talk about the Serpent Audio SB4001 and give you our thoughts on it. So you've been using it, you used it before I did, so give me your first impressions of what you thought of it.
Initially I used a certain plug-in on my mix bus, but it was immediate wow factor for me when I used the Serpent on the mix bus. So man, it really blew me away. So
Alright, and so you primarily mix in the box.
yes.
So how do you feel it compared to other bus compressor plugins?
I did a shootout between the two. It was immediate like difference between it. Like the Serpent was a lot beefier, had a wider stereo image. I also felt like we'd get there later on, but you know, the high end of what it was giving out, I heard that as well. So I guess Sheen, I guess. So that's pretty much what I heard with it.
So you know, I'm not a fan of cloned gear. You know, I like when someone takes something and improves on it, and
Right.
I feel that that's what Serpent Audio did with this. They took those classic British compressors and added more features to it. So I mean, with all the extra bells and whistles on it, give me some of your favorite features
Oh
on
man, it's easy. As soon as you press the grind mode, you will hear a difference. You hear the instant glue that it brings the mix together. My favorite on the Serpent is the variable release. I was able to dial in based up on the tempo of the song that I was mixing. That's huge for me. Also, I love the boost filter.
Put you on the spot here. So there's no perfect product. So give me just feedback. Give me one thing have you found anything you don't like? Is there anything?
Yes. I feel like it's a congested unit. I have big hands, so like when I try to turn knobs and stuff like that, I could easily affect the blend, or you know, something like that when I'm trying to turn a knob. So my fingers are too big, you know, for the knobs. But also, I would say that I think the knobs are kind of hard to turn. They're really tight. So
I've experienced that with some 500 series that
Right.
are tight, but
Right.
you know, the devil said the pros outweigh the cons. I did
Oh,
notice
yeah.
when I was the blend knob, when I'm turning the filter,
Right.
yeah, my finger would hit that blend knob, and I notice I'm not at 100% wet like I want to be.
Right.
I'll give you my first impressions. I was impressed with the glue factor that it adds, and it sounds like an analog bus compressor.
Yeah.
I normally use the Smart C1LA. Comparing it to that, and as you know, you've heard the files, man, the Serpent Audio has a little more high end to me, and the grind mode definitely adds a little clarity to it.
Yeah.
And with mixing, you're all about clarity.
Yeah.
You know, you could hear it in the vocal there. I mean, it was one time we took the grind out, and I just put my head down because just lost what we had. But yeah, compared to the C1LA, and don't get me wrong, I love the CLA. I've been using it for the past maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
But for the type of music that I do is more modern sounding. I feel like the Serpent sounded more modern than the C1LA. I just felt like it may have rolled off a little bit of the highs. Definitely a subtle thing, but it's there. I mean, you do hear a difference between the two. On the flip side, I like that the C1LA does the dual mono thing. Like, I found that really helpful during mixing.
Right.
But there's definitely not two of the same units. Like, I could see a place, man, for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, definitely I can see a place for both of them. So I would like to ask you, in your use of the Serpent, how does it compare to an actual SSL? Because I know you had experience with the actual SSL bus compressor. So
Yeah, I've mixed for 4 years when I was at AI Nashville on an SSL duality, and really fell in love with the SSL compressor. Ended up getting the Smart, thinking it would sound like an SSL, but it didn't really sound like an SSL to me. The Serpent sounded closer to an SSL to me. I'm almost in a mind frame of nothing's gonna sound like an SSL but an SSL.
right.
But however, the SSL costs twice as much as the Serpent,
Yes.
and has less features,
Yes.
actually. So, with that regard, but just with the SSL, I feel like the mids move forward a little bit when I used it. But I would trade that for the extra bells and whistles, especially things like the high pass filter. I know SSL just now putting a high pass filter. Thank you, SSL, by the way. But that, I mean, honestly, even that kept me from really going that route with an SSL, because doing a lot of pop, hip hop, man, we got to have that low end, and you don't want your compressor pulling down the low end. So that
exactly
that high pass filter is important.
yes, it is.
And then I'll give you some of my favorite features on the 4001. Definitely the grind mode. That little bit of clarity it adds is a must. I really like the automatic release.
Okay.
That was a really cool feature too. And being able to get your attack times in between the 10 and 30 milliseconds, because sometimes the 10 milliseconds is too fast for me. Sometimes 30 seconds is too long.
Right.
So, and with the 4001, you've got 2 attack times in between of there, 15 and 20. So I'm really glad to see that. I mean, I had thought of one time of having someone I know that builds gear to build me a bus compressor, because at the time I couldn't find anything I liked.
Right.
And one of the requests I had was a 15 millisecond attack time. So, man, when I saw that, I was like, that's what's up.
So, did you get excited about the variable release? Because I know you was a big fan of the H comp, and initially, you were, very excited about the fact that you can set the release based upon the tempo and stuff. So, how did you feel that you get that in the actual hardware unit?
The variable release is great for dialing it in, because as I'm watching the attack, I'm also watching the release when I'm setting my bus compression. And the SSL gives you a few options. With the Smart, I have more, but with the variable release, I can dial in exactly what I need. A lot of my bus compression settings don't change, but if I had one that would change the most, it would be the release. I mean, every mix is different, every tempo is different. So, yeah, the variable release it's interesting, because even if I was building my own build your own dream bus compressor, I don't know if I would have even thought to put a variable release on that if I was building that classic British style bus compressor.
Right. One thing I also like to touch a note on is that one thing I like about the Serpent, pretty much over the CL1A, it's subjective though. It's the view meter lights up. That's, to me, that was huge. So that's another plus for it.
Extremely picky, but I agree. I do wish this, because I don't. We've got everything lit up now because we're shooting this video, but this isn't how I mix, and I will sometimes have the lights low, or even at times sometimes have the lights off, and I have to hit the C1LA with a flashlight to see what my gain reduction is doing. So yeah, I do wish they would have. I don't know what a bulb costs, 50 cents, $1.
Like
yeah, I wish they would have put a bulb in there and lit up the VU meter. It also doesn't help that where it shows that gain reduction is black on the C1LA too.
Right.
So yeah.
Also, what I like to say, and the initial shootout that we had.
Let's talk about that.
I honestly feel like that, you know, that the stereo image on the CL1A was slightly wider, and I guess that's due maybe to the dual mono feature that it has. So
well, I was using the stereo though. I didn't put it in dual mono.
Oh, you didn't put it in. Okay, so well, I felt like it was a little wider though, and it was a little, so it was, yeah.
But would you rather have that stereo image, or would you rather have? I feel like the Serpent was adding some high end. The high end was a little clearer there.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying, but I mean, it's depending on the song. I mean, it's room for both. If you can get both, get both. You know, but if I had to go with one, that one's tough. I don't want to answer that one.
Yeah, I can't pick one because it really, for more modern sounding stuff, you know, I could really see the Serpent. But it's crazy because I never felt like I was missing that high end until we flipped through the files that the Serpent had, and I was like, yo, where's the? I kind of felt like the Smart was rolling a little bit of the high end off. And,
Depending on the record though, right?
Yeah, I mean.
So, because I know you had a country mix on, and I felt like the Smart probably would have been better for that one.
Yeah, and I'm doing a lot of pop, and I'm all about my high end, man.
Yeah,
like,
so that'll definitely work for that with the Serpent. Like I said, it depends on the type of music you're doing. So.
All right, so y'all got any questions? Leave it in the comments. And you know, that's our thoughts, first impressions, just a little bit about the Serpent Audio SB4001. We'll catch y'all next time.